Thank you so much. Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here. And I'm so honored to be one of the keynote speakers in this wonderful event, Trauma-Informed Practices and the Intersectionality between Plurilingualism and Trauma. Such a timely topic, and I hope you find this session meaningful. Before I begin, just quickly, type in the chat how you're feeling right now at this very moment. I know it's been a long day, and you can choose any language. It doesn't have to be English, any language you choose. But I might ask you to kindly translate. So in the chat, let me see. Tell me how you're feeling now. So I can type in the chat, I am, in Arabic, we say mabsuta, which means happy. Happy, excited, grateful. Okay, tired, but excited. Okay, interesting. Thank you. Thank you. Lots of excitement. Silly, exhausted. I know. Yeah. Okay, grateful, eager. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Just to let you know, you will be typing a lot in the chat. So keep your fingertips ready. Excite. Okay, Felice. Excellent. I think it's happy, right? Okay, a little bit tired. So, another question, again, type in the chat. I want you to really think about these questions and just type the number and an answer to that. So in the chat, if you have a fatigue, this fatigue is from what? Fear of what? You can share a recent joy, or maybe type in the chat one thing I wish someone asks me. So you can choose one or all of them. I'll give you a few seconds, 30 seconds. So yeah, in the chat type, you can choose, again, you type the number and the answer to one of these prompts. You can choose one, two, all. Fatigue from looking after my mental, oh yeah, disabled sister. Oh yeah. Have time for myself. Okay. So this is, I suppose it's a joy. Okay. Yeah. Sharing with all of you. Yeah, that's a share. Yeah, amazing. Fatigue from fake news. Yes. Okay. One weekend of screen. Yes. Fatigue from screen. Oh, one thing I wish someone asked me, how are you? Yeah, like how you really are. Yes. Sharing with my, okay. Feel of tomorrow. Okay, thank you very much. What I've just done with you is a trauma-informed practice. Thank you so much for trusting the space and sharing all these emotions and ideas with us. Exactly. So, throughout this session, I will model lots of trauma informed practices that are really simple little acts, but they can shift the mood of the entire classroom. And again, before I go, before I continue talking about the topic, I'm just going to walk you through the how this session will look like. First, I will talk about what trauma is and why it matters, and then I will share with you some plurilingual trauma-informed practices that I did in the classroom. And it's going to be an interactive session, so you will also participate in some of these activities. I want you to take a look, if you don't mind, at this story. I'll give you again a few seconds to read it. And in your head, try to reflect on it and see if it's relatable. Have you encountered examples like this in your classrooms? So I'll pause for a few seconds and I'll give you some time to read this story of one of the refugee students that I had in one of my classrooms. If you have any emotions when you read this, please feel free to type them in the chat as well. Have you encountered something similar to this in your classrooms? Read something similar, heard something similar? Never. Okay. hmm Okay. Yeah. Thank you for sharing an emoji. Yeah. So, yeah, it is actually sad. Yeah. So this actually was a narrative assignment, and the students were asked to describe a past experience. And I was surprised to read this. This was a student. I made some modifications for the language, but it was basically it. What personally struck me the most when the student described the warmth of the blood of their beloved ones, but he wept silently. To me, like he couldn't even grieve. So this is the trauma practice, like this is the trauma atmosphere that I would be more focusing on when we have students who are coming from war-torn areas, who suffered from displacement because of war. And unfortunately, until this day, we're, we're witnessing these heartbreaking realities. So what do you know about trauma? Could you like, just with one word, what do you know about trauma? Show me. Type in the chat, one word to let me know what you know about trauma. Scars, okay. Pain, okay. Suffering. And I wanted to add a disclaimer here. I'm sorry if this might trigger some people, but this is a safe learning environment, okay? You carry a shadow throughout your life. Absolutely. It's part of who you are. It's part of your identity. Upsetting experience. Exactly. Thank you so much. And that would lead me to the definition of trauma. So, trauma, according to Substance Mental Health Services Administration, substance abuse, it's defined by the three E's: the events that, and then how you experience these events: prolonged, extremely severe, recurrent, and then how these experiences affect you. So the effects of this event. And I have to admit here, this definition is purely clinical. And I want to add to that some decolonial aspects of trauma informed definition, which is something called collective trauma, intergenerational trauma. So, yeah, you might have been okay throughout your life, but because of societal trauma, war, for example, this might traumatize people as society, as members of society, not as individuals. So there are several types of trauma. The first one would be like the single incident trauma, but it's really extreme, like natural disasters. Take, for example, hurricanes, earthquakes. A lot of students were displaced. I'm going to give an example here of Turkey, for example, when they were hit by the earthquake. A lot of students were displaced because of this sad natural disaster and lots of hurricanes. So these are traumatizing experiences. Complex trauma like domestic violence, domestic abuse, developmental trauma, particularly in childhood, like sexual abuse, negligence during childhood. That my focus now, even though the other parts are not less important, but like this focus of today's session would be on intergenerational and historical trauma. Intergenerational trauma, things that pass through from generation to generations, like the indigenous peoples, and also historical trauma that are caused because of war. And I can argue that now with the intergenerational trauma, what we see on a regular basis on social media is affecting worldwide generations. So I can argue that this is also another form of intergenerational trauma. So I'm sorry, something happened here. Okay. So have you had students who might have had signs of trauma? Yes, no, maybe. So type in the chat. Yes. Okay. Let me see. Yeah. So Anna says yes. Yeah, I see thumbs up. Maybe. Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah. And when you say yes, like did you see signs, like clear signs? And yeah, okay. Okay. So again, especially in language classrooms, a lot of students might come, as I said, from um, really unfortunate realities, and then we would be able to see certain signs of traumatic responses. And sometimes some teachers would label these students as being weak students or disruptive or distracted. And in reality, that's actually their trauma in the classroom with them. I want you to show you this example. And this is actually um, um, a chart I shared with my students to let them know what trauma is. And as you could see here, even though it looks complex, but like teenagers and teens between 13 to 18, even with, I tried this with 12-year-olds, and they could actually grasp it. It's really good for students to understand what goes on in their brain when they show signs of trauma or severe anxiety or stress. So if you look at this image, have you heard of the concept upstairs brain and downstairs brain? And I have to give credit here because I attended a webinar, and this is where I learned from this through one of TESOL international webinars. So if you look at my hand here, the upstairs brain and the downstairs brain is like, this is how our brain reacts when we come across stressors. The upstairs brain is the part of our brain that is responsible for decision making, self-understanding, regulation, emotional regulation. So that's the upstairs brain business, responsible also for critical thinking, higher cognitive tasks and abilities. Whereas the downstairs brain is responsible for emotional reactions. So it acts before it thinks. You know, these fight, flight, and freeze. So this all happens in the lower part of our brain, the downstairs brain. So once we're stressed, the channel between the upstairs brain and the downstairs brain gets blocked. Once the downstairs is activated, it blocks the pathway to the upstairs brain, and that's when students lose functionality, lose attention, and lose ability to think straight in the classroom. So our job, hopefully, with some trauma-informed practices, is to just to open the channel between the downstairs brain and the upstairs brain. And you can be amazed, like a simple activity, and science has proven that a simple 3 seconds breathing exercise, like close your eyes and breathe, or like pause for 3 seconds and breathe. This would be good enough to open the pathway between the downstairs brain and the upstairs brain. Again, this is another chart, and all these charts, as I show you here, I shared them with the students from 12 to adulthood, 12 years old to adult. So it's really important for us to understand the how our brain handles stress. When we are in a calm mode, when we are grounded, then we are in the social engagement phase. And this is when learning happens. But then once stressors increase and anxiety gets heightened, then we go in this mode of fight or flight. We're either so impulsive or we're so aggressive. Some students, like you would encounter students in the classroom, who are like absolutely impulsive and aggressive, and we would think that they're being rude or disrespectful, but that's probably their trauma. Or flight, absolute absence or lack of participation, withdrawal from the classroom. So this is when how some people they just simply escape. And the last one would be the freeze, which is like the absolute surrender and giving up to stress and anxiety when this feeling of helplessness, loss of energy. And I encountered at one of my conferences a teacher telling me that in the USA, they had many refugee students in grade 7 and 8 who are in this freeze mode. They are absolutely helpless and depressed and numbness. They don't want to do anything because of the new rules with immigration. And the student told the teacher, I do want to do anything because at the end of the day, I'm not sure if I will even stay here. So this is the absolute non-responsiveness. So this is also a chart to be shared with the students and let them be aware of what goes on and in their nervous system. Sometimes it only takes awareness and identification of the mindset and inner states of your body. Okay, so I'm going to stop here with some lecturing. Let's alleviate the mode and do some breathing. So I don't see you, but if you can open the camera, I'm happy to see you. Let's do a breathing exercise. So it's got the bowl of soup exercise. Again, I'm going to give the credit here to a conference I attended. So yeah, let's imagine we're holding a bowl of soup. And as I said, like feel free to open the camera if you want. And let's breathe. Okay, so this is a hot, and it's snowing here in Canada and Toronto. So this is a warm bowl of soup. So let's try to breathe in and smell the warm soup. And now let's try cool down the soup. And you can do this as many times as you want. Sometimes when it's Valentine's Day, I tell the students, imagine you're holding a flower and then smell the flower. So let's smell the flower. And now blow the leaves. Again, this is an example of a trauma-informed practice in the classroom, practicing mindfulness and breathing. And yes, I know teenagers might think this is cringe or they might not do it. But you know what? You're establishing this culture of being aware of your body once you're stressed and you need to give your body a break. This whole concept. Trauma-informed practice, then, the meaning of it is to basically recognize the signs of trauma. And I'm not here claiming that we are therapists and specialists, but probably we need to consider students' backgrounds and not rush into labeling students as being weak or and they might be like they need special or extra care, extra improvement, but they're not necessarily academically weak. We need to validate their emotions. So if they are upset or frustrated, probably teach them the language to express their emotions. Because once they express their emotions, probably they can regulate these emotions. Once we put language into the emotions, we can regulate these emotions. And then once we validate these emotions, I hear you, I see you, I feel you. We respond to their needs. We start to give options in our instructions that might cater to whatever background they come from. And I understand some of you might say, I have certain texts or curriculum to follow. But believe me, teachers are so creative and smart. And we are the masters of adapting materials to cater to our students' needs. So we might as well do it for students who might have some trauma signs. Why it matters? First, migration and displacement are global realities. In every single country, I can argue, there are signs of displacement. In Europe, look at Ukraine and the situation there. And in the Middle East, in Canada, in the US, worldwide, in the UK. So this is a reality, and the students who are displaced or migrated are in our classrooms. So as a teacher, you're not just teaching a language, you're dealing with a really complex human body in your classroom. Language education as teacher train, like I'm also a teacher trainer. And I teach second language acquisition and I teach assessment. And I notice in teacher training curriculum, it's always about language focused methodology. Recently, we started to see something about cultural responsiveness. So there's a real need on how to handle conflict in the classroom because of the diverse backgrounds in the classroom, how to handle trauma impacted students. Because sometimes you might ask students to, I had a situation and some teacher also shared with me a situation where you might talk about gardening and students start crying, remembering the gardens they left behind. You ask students to do presentations about sustainability and climate change, and then out of the blue, out of nowhere, you don't even know it, students talk about, and this is a real case situation, students talked about climate change and because of war. And can you imagine the atmosphere in the classroom? And the teacher shared with me that she found it hard to proceed because the students were all from backgrounds, from war zone backgrounds. So it's there, it's a reality. Even though we try to escape it, it's there. So trauma then is widespread worldwide. And I can argue every single adult had their deep inside traumatic experiences that might get triggered, not to mention secondary trauma as a teacher, when you have students like this, you are impacted, you are triggered. We had here a situation, and I'm sorry I keep mentioning the context of Canada, but we had teachers who come from the Middle East, or who are Jewish teachers, or who are from Iran, and they got really impacted by what's happening globally. So as teachers, we are also carry our heavy trauma. And classrooms are multilingual, are diverse, and that where the intersectionality of plurilingual activities would serve as really great tool for healing and empowerment in the classroom. Okay. I promise you this is the last lecturing, and then we'll do some activities. So in a nutshell, trauma does affect learning because students bring their traumatic experiences in the classroom, and it often shapes their academic performance. Students who might have trauma might struggle with attention because they can easily distracted. As I said, you talk about gardening, then they think about their gardens back home, and then the whole mood shifts. When you teach idiomatic expressions, something like shotgun or to give it a shot, you would be surprised that these words might trigger some students. So the languages that and the words that we choose to teach for students, or bite a bullet, I stopped using those because I found it really triggering to some students. Even we were talking about July, 7th of July, and also here in Canada, Remembrance Day and fireworks. And some students told me that they can't stand fireworks. They get scared, they get triggered by them because it reminds them of some bombing or some, even I had a Colombian student who told me about it reminded them of like some gang activities. So you don't know where these triggering moments might happen in the classroom. Students with trauma might have low self-efficacy, negative self-talk. I don't know this. I'm not good enough. As I told you, the example of this teenager in the States, I do want to do this. I'm good for nothing. I, or some of them would say, why am I here? I don't deserve to be here, and my family is there. Or I am here, and my family somewhere around the world are under attack, or in shelters, or in tents. I don't deserve to be here. I am guilty, the survival guilt. Trouble with critical thinking, back with the upper stairs brain, because they're often, the downstairs brain is often activated. So it's really hard to ask them about what's your opinion about this, or what do you think of this? And it's really interesting because some students would ask me, what do you want me to think? Or some of them would be really scared to voice out their opinions because they came from backgrounds and households where they cannot voice out their opinions. So, and this is a simple critical thinking task. Think about even the bigger picture. Relationships, forming relationships. So, some of them are really introverted, aloof into themselves. They don't want to mingle and communicate with their peers or do pair work or group work. They would prefer to do everything individually, or absolutely disruptive because of this anxiety level. They would interrupt every single task because they're obsessed. They want to know what's going to happen next, or if this is right or wrong. So this obsession, this anxiety translates in their activity in the classroom. Trouble reading achievement because reading requires high cognitive abilities in terms of comprehending, inferring, predicting, trying to find these contents clues or gets the meaning of the word, guided discovery. All of these require high reading skills, but that's trouble for them because back to the idea of attention and memory impairment, this connection between long-term and short-term memory would be also disruptive. And these are all important components for successful reading achievement. And again, anxiety and depression, that's really quite obvious byproducts of trauma. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. And then I promise you the second half now will be all hands-on activities that I tried in my classrooms. And I said that from ages 12 up until adulthood. And I hope you find it useful. So let's do a quick brain break. I want you to type in the chat right now. First thing comes to mind, something that makes you smile. Let me see the answers. Type in the chat something that makes you smile. And I see some hands raised, so I'll give you a chance to puppy, yeah. Okay, chocolate, see kids come. Yeah, they're funny, yeah. Okay, my daughter, excellent. Yeah, my daughter. And yeah, music. And it's so funny. This six step seven thing is just driving me crazy. And I have a 40-year-old walking around with this meme. Okay, kid smiles. Yes, young children, they're common. Yes, they're so funny. Exactly. Thank you so much. Okay. So, um, trauma sensitive classroom strategies are basically, thank you so much for sharing your answers. So, trauma sensitive classroom strategies are all around these four main components. First, building relationships, rapport, and trust, and patience. Once this relationship is established, then the classroom becomes automatically safe. And then the third one would be engaging in choice, so offering choices, multimodality, instead of writing about something or talking about something, probably draw about it, share an emoji. And then encouraging skill building, which happens through exercises to help them regulate their emotions, to set clear boundaries and classroom rules. And I will show you in a bit some of the classroom agreements that I tried with my students to establish this routine, that even though I give you the option, for example, not to work in groups or not to work in pairs, I allowed you to, for example, excuse yourself and not participate in this activity, but we need to agree on a number of times when I can allow you to do so. So we need to do this kind of agreements to establish these regulations and these rules and behavioral expectations. One final brain break, and then we'll get down to business. So type in the chat. And I want you to focus on today's week. And as you can see, all my brain breaks are trauma informed practices. So type in the chat three things, and only three things, that you achieved this particular week. Only three things. And they can be as big as, for me, like folding the laundry. This is huge. Or as small as, I don't know, brushing your teeth in the morning. So type in the chat three achievements you did only this week, big or small. Let's see. I can start folding laundry, editing new podcast. Oh, nice. Excellent. Amazing. That's huge. Okay, let me see more answers. Thank you, Tyson. Yeah. Attending the conference thrice, all the three achieve. Oh, yeah, yeah. Three by one. Amazing. Amazing. Meetings, the conference. Yes. Any other achievements? Patience, slept, thinking all the time. Stop thinking all the time. That's amazing. Yeah, conference. Okay. Have my Advent wreath ready. Oh, yeah. Merry Christmas and happy holidays. Uh, Felt grateful not to sleep during online education. Okay. Okay. Nice. Okay. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to sit back. Okay. Now, I don't see you, but please do it if you can. Okay, I want you to put your right hand on your left shoulder and the left hand on the right shoulder, okay? And give yourself a big hug. And I usually, with my teenagers, I ask them to shout, I'm awesome and I can do great things. I can't hear you probably. And as I said, the whole idea is for students to self-love because they're so anxious and their level of anxiety. So at least if nobody hugged you, hug yourself. If nobody celebrated your achievements, celebrate yourself. Learn not to wait it from others. Bring joy to yourself. And the activities that I will share with you in a bit are all basically about attention tasks, because we said students might struggle with attention. So I will share with you an activity that would grab their attention And then that would set the tone for the entire class. Memory strategies, again, remember the memory impairment, the connection between the long term and short term. So there's an activity I'll share that helped students develop their memory. And then mindfulness, similar to the breathing or similar to celebrating joyful moments or achievements and plurilingual tasks. So without further ado, I'm going to start with the first one. So the first one is called selective attention task. So I will read a story, and then when I read this story, I want you to type number one whenever you hear the word wise. Okay? So what is the key word that I want you to pay attention to? Can you type it in the chat? So whenever I say the word wise, I want you to type one. So what is the key word? Wise? Wise. Yeah, wise. Yeah. Cool. And whenever you hear the word wise, what number do I want you to type? One. Okay. So do you type one or do you type wise? I'm sorry, it's just my Celta Delta here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I need to do some ICQs, eh? Okay. So ready? Okay. So I'm gonna read the story. And remember, this is called selective attention task. I want you to think about why I'm doing this. So I just realized that I don't want to move between my slides. Okay, here we go. Okay, get ready, okay? Once upon a time, in an enchanted forest, there lived a wise old owl. Okay. The wise owl was known for its keen insights and extraordinary wisdom. Okay, good. One day, the forest animals gathered around the wise owl to seek guidance. As the wise owl began to share its keen observations, the other animals listened attentively. Whenever the wise owl mentioned the word wisdom, somebody wrote, the animals were asked to raise their hands. How many ones did you type? Do you remember? It doesn't matter. It's okay. Three, five, yeah, six, yeah. I don't know, maybe five, seven. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, this is just a simple activity. Honestly, it doesn't matter. I didn't even ask you to number them or to count them. But as you can see here, the whole activity here is just to grab your attention. So if you're exhausted or tired or distracted, once I tell you type one, and remember, I told you type one, not like the word wise. I don't want you to think about how to spell wise. Is it AI or to put E? I don't care about spelling. I want you to pay attention to me. And I do this before any listening activity, any reading activity. Hype them up, get them focused, and now we do the activity. And you can do it with any text, not necessarily the wise owl. Choose any, and I'm going to leave this to your creativity. Choose any keyword, but remember your goal is to attract and grab their attention. Okay, so just to let you know the activity here. This is the wise owl story, and then I will share with you the slides. Another activity, it's called spaced retrieval task, and this is a memory strategy. So again, I will read something, I will ask you some questions. I'm not going to share my reading passage, and the reason why I focus on listening is that listening requires higher attention than reading. This is the assumption that I read in the article I took these activities from. So, ready? I'm going to read something, and I want you to pay attention to what I'm going to say. And then here, okay, I'm just going to go to, again, that one. Okay. I will ask you some comprehension questions, and I will invite you to ask again yourselves, why is it called spaced retrieval? Okay? So, here we go. Pay attention. Our solar system is vast and filled with interesting celestial bodies. At its center is the sun, What is at the center of our solar system? Let me see in this chat. Ah, good job. Okay, just two people? Okay. So some said, yeah, okay. So let's read again. Awesome, awesome. Let's read again. So our solar system, pay attention to how I'm doing it. Our solar system is vast and filled with interesting celestial bodies. At its center is the sun, a massive ball of hot glowing gases. Orbiting around the sun are eight planets. So, what is in the middle of the solar system? The sun. So I want you to think about what I'm doing here. Okay, one last reading because it's spaced retrieval. Again, our solar system is vast and filled with interesting celestial bodies. At its center is the sun, a massive ball of hot glowing gases. Orbiting around the sun are eight planets, including Earth. Each planet has its own unique characteristics. How many planets were there? Yeah, okay. So did you see what I'm trying to do? So it's spaced retriever. You start with like small bits for 30 seconds. You ask a question, really as simple as that, like how many planets, what was at the center, and then they answer the question, and then you move on. Again, the whole idea is like to get their memory functioning before big tasks. So that's also called the spaced retrieval task. And this is my solar system slides. Now, another activity, and here I'm going to dig deeper into plurilingual tasks. Or let me see here, mindfulness actually before that. So so breathing is really important. And then there's something called the 5-4-3-2-1. I do this all the time. Have you tried it in the classroom? The 5-4-3-2-1? So let's do this quickly together. So usually you have to mention five things, but I'm just going to ask you to type one thing you can see right now. One thing, look around, type one thing you can see at this very moment. I can write my cup. Stones. Okay. Oh, stones. Okay. Okay. So, okay, picture. Okay. Nice. Okay. I want you to mention. So usually you have to let the students mention five things, but now because of time. Okay, I want you to type in the chat one thing you can feel with your hand. Something you can feel with your hand. Uh-huh. Cool. Okay. One thing you can hear. So I want you to pay attention, other than my voice. Something that you can hear. Oh, birds. Nice. Okay. Your voice, my kid. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Now, one thing you can smell. I'm not sure you can smell much. Yeah, they're squeaking. Yeah, you can smell. Mate, coffee. Okay. Football from the other room. Okay. Clean clothes. Okay, nice. I'm glad it's clean clothes. Sentiment, nice. And the last thing, type in the chat and really, I want try everybody to type in the chat one thing and really think about it. Good thing about you. One good thing about you. It can be good as a character trait or something you're good at. So I'm good at cooking, for example. I barely cook, but like I rarely cook. But yeah, something good about you. Persistent, yes, patient, energetic, cooking vegetables. I show up, yes, polite, amazing, creative, fantastic, loyal, kind. And I want you to feel the sense of appreciation you have for yourself. I love you too, Harriet. Thank you so much. I love myself. That's important. And again, here we're teaching the students, first of all, we get them to we get their senses with us in the classroom. So they get them alert, especially in moments where we have to introduce a certain grammar point or something cognitively loaded. We ask the students to just feel their bodies, feel the environment, be in the present and the moment. But then we get them to at least identify one thing they're good at. So they might say, I'm good at video game, I'm good at Roblox, I'm good at whatever. Doesn't matter. You're good at something. So back to low self-efficacy. No, you are amazing. And There's something here. I'm going to quickly mention it, the circle of control. It's a really cool activity where you ask students to identify the areas where they can control. I will share with you the slides and I will encourage you to check that activity. But I really, because of time's sake, I want to talk about some plurilingual activities that empower students. One of them would be the language portraits. And I don't know if you tried this or not in your classrooms, but it's basically you show the students, you give the students a portrait, a human body, and you tell them to attach each part of their body to a language that they speak or they appreciate or it's part of their cultural identity. So as you can see here in the examples here, we have these students who, for example, they had here Spanish in their body or Arabic in their mouth, and then they needed to also attach it to a color. Okay, so if quickly I ask you to type in the chat, think of a language that is meaningful to you. And if I ask you to connect this language to a body and a color, a body part and a color, what would you choose? So Simon says game. Okay, yeah. Okay, so let's use language. So for example, I can put Arabic and I can put a body part would be heart and I can put red. So I'm originally from Jordan and red is one of the colors of the Jordanian flag and heart, it's in my heart. It's my first language. Spanish, heart, red. Okay, maybe because of the flag. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so quickly. Spanish, red, blood. Ah, red blood. English, blue veins. Interesting. Greece, blue. Okay, which part of the body? Okay. So as you can see, heart, green, Tajik. Okay, interesting. So this is a really cool activity. If you've tried it, keep doing it. If you haven't, please try it. It's really interesting. And then you get students to explain why they chose the colors, why they chose that body part. So that connects me to critical thinking. So sometimes critical thinking can be a simple activity as this. It doesn't have to be heavily exposing their inner trauma. It can be as simple as celebrating the linguistic repertoire, empowering, and then you extend it. Teach us a word in your language. Teach us an expression in your language, a song in your language. And I will show you an example here. Actually, what I did, this is a high school student. Can you hear the student? Can you hear her?
No, the sound is not going through, Ruba. Would you like to check your settings?
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to stop. Can you
So
hear it
let's
now?
look at the
Yes.
picture.
So just quickly, this is
The
the
first
student.
thing we
Okay,
can
gonna
see
show you.
is the right color on my head is Chinese. I can understand and speak Chinese very well. Chinese is the most important language for me because I grew up in China. So Chinese is my mother language. And in my daily life, when I talk with my family and friends, we all use Chinese. It is worth mentioning that each province has its own language in China.
So again, you can play around this activity in the way you see appropriate. So here I ask, it depends on the level, they're intermediate or higher levels. You just get them to present it and explain it, or if they are at the beginner level, a sentence level, they just write sentences. Arabic is in my heart because Spanish is red because, but then this gets you let them celebrate who they are and talk about it and critically think about their choices. I want you to show you here this image in the middle is not a language portrait, it's an identity text. And it took this from a scholar here in Canada, Jim Cummins, who had this idea of identity text where students celebrate their identities. And again, we have this body part and then wear your backgrounds, put them in this body portrait and explain them. So you can see here the student here put video games in their hand. They are good at it. They love it. This is things they do with their hands. They work, they shop, and then they put pizza in their stomach because they like pizza. In their hearts, they like Italian, Portuguese. And then in the other hand, he put she actually put the family, and it was really interesting. And I when I told her, why did you choose your hand, your other hand, for family, and she said, because I help them all the time. It's just I keep helping them. So it's really interesting. So we can cultivate critical thinking without mentioning heavy topics. You can't imagine the level of emotions and energy when students celebrate again the individual self, identities and cultures. Um, Another activity is called the identity landscape. Again, I took this idea from Jim Cummins. And here the students were asked, and I have to tell you, this activity is really triggering and might re-traumatize students. I have to tell you here. And we celebrate moments of vulnerability and tears in the classroom. We appreciate that they trusted the space to be vulnerable, especially teenagers. And adults find it really hard to open up. So here in this activity, students needed to create using an app called Cogilite or any mind map app. They can even draw it. And they needed to use Google Earth and take screenshots of the places that shaped who they are or who they were. And they needed to talk about the language they learned there. If you could look at this lower image here, this student is a Syrian student who went to Turkey, and he took a screenshot of his hometown in Aleppo. And he started talking about the Aleppo dialect because it's a different from like other Syrian dialects. And then he took a screenshot of the area where he lived in Turkey, talked about Turkish language, and then it went on. As students, there were lots of tears, lots of moments of re-traumatization when students went to Google Earth and then saw their lands absolutely demolished. And I have to tell you that these are one of the moments where you need to ask yourself, if you you give the students the option, if they are not comfortable talking about spaces in their homeland, they can share areas that bring happy memories. But again, I really encourage teenagers and anybody to sometimes revisit these places where they had trauma and then try to find and live the happy memories there. And then this is also an activity called I Am From poem. I took this idea from an article I read by a professor called Antoinette Gagne. So basically, you give students here prompts and you tell them to fill in the gaps with their first languages. So as you can see here, we have like, I am from a place you like at home. So I'm from my bed, and then I am from, and they wrote in Chinese characters, here in Vietnamese characters, and I had some students write in Arabic. So again, these simple activities are trauma informed because students feel really happy and empowered to celebrate their languages, the places that mean the most to them, without digging deep into their trauma. I have to admit that that one was really traumatizing, but I did it on purpose because I want students to face their traumatic experiences and embrace them because they're part of them. So they need to face their vulnerability. I wanted you to do this activity, so I don't know if we have time, but if quickly you choose a line, just one line, and complete this line. So as you can see here, I have multiple prompts. We don't have time to do it all, but if you would choose a line.
Yeah, we have time, so go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So a line or two now that I have time. So I promise you this would be the kind of the last. So yeah, take a look, choose one line or two, type in the chat, complete the poem. I am from, let's see. Okay. Yeah, I'm glad you find it meaningful, Harriet. Yeah. So let me see. You can say for example, I am from Kallab and Ibrahim. These are my two family names. I am from generosity and anxiety. My family is really anxious, but they're very generous. From Quello. Okay, I'm sorry, my pronunciation. So I'm assuming these are your two family names. Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah. You can choose other line, another line. Yeah. Let me see. I will wait for a few more seconds. I'm from Sebern and Davis. I'm from Raleigh and Mather. Okay, nice. And I can share with you these, and then you can do them in the classroom. Again, you get students to pair up, and I do this in pairs, not in groups, because it's more intimate. And then students share their poems, talk about their emotions. I use it a lot in my teacher training as well, and it's really amazing how emotions and language are connected together, and students can use their own languages. Thank you so much. Yeah. I want to show you this activity. It's called the classroom playlist. So every time I meet students, I share with them a link and I tell them, choose a song from your home country, paste it in this chart, choose a couple of lines, and then in your home language, and then translate it. Tell us your emotions, and then every day we choose one student, and then talk about your song, talk about your emotions. Sometimes, if we have time, some classes are 3 hours long. We just dedicate 30 minutes where students share their songs. I really want you to share. I do this all the time, but this particular chart struck me. I want you to pay attention to the languages that you see here. And I told them it's a wonderful world if we live it with pure humanity, because that shows that we're humans above all. So we have Korean, we have Hebrew, we have Arabic, and we have Persian in one classroom, in one chart. And they sat together, shared the songs, and it was so amazing. I can tell you that was one of the most meaningful moments in my education is so powerful. We teachers, we can really change the world. It's really important. And you can't imagine. Remember, David was really reluctant. I'm sorry I mentioned this to him. He was reluctant sharing. And I told him, no, we share, write it, and celebrate it. We love you. We're humans. And that's above all. Humanity is above all. So that's also a really cool activity. So, in a nutshell, back to collaboration and offering choices. And sometimes some of the idioms we choose to teach, it's again trying to select which things that we can incorporate in the classroom, which things we might include, but other offer alternatives. For example, instead of talk about a past experience or something that you will do today and the past, and then the past can be like last week, not like really, really, even if they didn't do anything, even if they just played video games all the day. But it can be last year, last summer, last weekend, last week, and it can be imaginative so they can copy something they watch on the media. But again, this is just to offer the options. And if it's if you could offer options like talk about the past, present, or the future, this is just to give them agency. It's all about giving them agency to feel empowered. Write about a time we felt scared. I remember we had an entire unit about fear. And it's really important to teach language of fear, don't get me wrong. But again, giving them options. Instead of talk about fear, maybe talk about a time when you had strong emotions. And then they can choose strong happiness, strong nervousness, or fear. Talk about summer, talk about plans you want to do after this class, or tomorrow, or next week. Instead of talking about family, again, you can talk about family, your own, your friends, or a family in a movie that you like. I'd like now to do with you this something called internal weather. I do it with the students because sometimes some students feel more comfortable sharing their inner weather instead of feelings. So I want you to look at the list of weather options here and type in the chat. How do you feel now? Do you feel sunny? Good, calm, partly sunny, windy, Scattered, distracted. Okay. Tornado. Okay, too much. Yes. Oh my God. Sunny. Exactly. Okay. Anything. And it would be really nice if you teach in physical classrooms and you have them just in cards or something. Snowboard. Nice. Snowy. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to show you now a Google Drive that I developed, and I will share it with you. I don't know if can you see it?
Yes, we can see you
Yeah.
move around.
Yeah. So this is a Google Drive I created thanks to AI now that we have these tools to put the ideas, design something, but then it refines it. Um, I designed less function language that we can teach the students to express their discomfort if they're not comfortable, to excuse themselves. So if they feel that they don't want to participate, then they can use words as pass or ouch or so. These are all function with role plays, with activities. I also added the instructions for the identity landscape, setting healthy boundaries. Some students might struggle with setting healthy boundaries. So what language? And these are language that it's worth teaching. So what language? And then we a normal function lesson, levels of appropriacy, levels of intensity. All of these, I put them here for you. I developed them, and then I keep adding to them. This is a compassionate check-in activity that similar to the one I started with that you can share with your students. When I share this with you, you can copy, adapt, do whatever you want. I also want to share with you one last thing here. It's called our class agreement. I invest an entire class with the students, teenagers, adults, and I can argue you can do it with all. Where the students identify in groups their core values, and then what actions they need to do these values, and then they select the values that we need to share as an entire class. I do this all the time. So this is a really interesting trauma-informed class agreement if you like to try it in your classroom. And finally, type what are your hopes for today? And thank you very much. If you have any questions, and I'm open to questions. But yeah, something to think about if you do want to type, but something to think about. What are your hopes for today? If you have any questions, this is my LinkedIn. Please feel free to connect with me. I'd love to extend the conversation with you.